Hey, what is going on? It's Corey, and we're back here with another property investing video. And what we're going to cover today is the top suburbs in Australia right now as of February 2026. We have all the data in, and we're going to look at a great site that every investor should use. And it really goes through all the percentage yields. So let's jump into this. If you haven't heard of it before, it's called smartpropertyinvestment.com. You just need to make an account. It is free. So all this information is accessible to the whole general public. It's not a real estate, you have to be an agent like RP Data style. And a lot of the cases, this data is more up to date than most sites. So jump into it, create an account. They make their money obviously from ads, which is why the page is covered in ads, but you can ignore that, put an ad blocker in or something like that. The point we want is we have our data, right? So when we come into the latest suburb data, we have three categories. Highest yield suburbs, which is the rent return, you could call it. So how much of my investment, how much am I getting back? What's my rent being returned to me? Essentially, that would be your highest yield. Your highest growth suburb is the ones that have grown the highest. So maybe over a 5-year period, it's grown maybe 100% or maybe 30-40%. And then your fastest growing suburbs, which is different from highest growing, is how fast it's grown in a year. So you'll see any new development suburbs usually fall within growing suburbs because the land just sells out really quickly. So these are your three categories that you're working with. If your portfolio is targeted more towards rental income rather than capital appreciation, so are we trying to get the highest rent return so I can start making this passive income and this weekly income? Highest yield suburbs, you're one. If you're looking at capital appreciation, so I want to buy a house, I want to make more money in 5 years, if I want to flip it, or if I want to just appreciate the value and then withdraw the equity to continue building the portfolio, then that would be fastest growing suburbs. And then if you're looking for a long-term play, so maybe for an investment, for a retirement, sorry, and we going 10 to 20 years down the line, I want to make sure that when I retire, I have a portfolio to support me. These will be highest growth suburbs. So jumping into it, what's great about this site is it filters by all states. So we can see on the highest yield, we have every state that's in here, and it will go by the top. Now this is updated from the 3rd of February 2026. So as I said, very, very up to date. A lot of this information will come from stuff like REWA and these available data sources, but it just joins it all together and gives you a nice website. So you can see New South Wales, we have our top 10 in here. Now 8.6% is very strong. Usually the ones that will always perform is WA. These mining towns will always perform in your rent return. But as I've mentioned in many videos, it's hard to resell it when the mining contract finishes and the mining leaves the town. So we can see at New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, all of them will be very similar. Queensland's performing very well in Menzies at 10.4%, and then we're sitting at around the 9%, which is close to these upper ones across the suburb. The ACT, obviously, that's just a population thing as well, which is a lot lower. And that's the same as Tasmania, with more of the farmland, less population growth, infrastructure and stuff. South Australia is on par. Now, we'll come back to Western Australia in a second, and then Northern Territory is all looking around the 8 to 9% for the upper return. Now, with Western Australia, as I said, mining towns, a lot of mining will happen in Western Australia. So these cause huge bubbles for rent. We can see Newman, South Headland, I would say all of them are mining towns. Obviously when we go to Newen and stuff, this is around the Kalgoorlie, so there's a huge amount of mining happening around here. South Headland, there's also many mining rigs and operations up there as well. But we can see if we are trying to build for a rental income coming in, and we want we buy a house and then maybe we're $200 positively geared per week, then we're going to mining town. Granted, we sell it, we won't make much profit, very little capital appreciation, but in those 5 years maybe that you hold it, maybe 10 years, you do make a very decent return in just the rent that's coming in. So Western Australia obviously is going to dominate the rental return purely because of the mining town. So if we just click on Newman in here, we can see mining town out in the middle of nowhere. We are looking at small investments for houses, 362, 210 for a unit. Not very many units out there. Ideally, you'll hit a house because of the land value. But we can see for a $362 investment, we are a $725 rent return, which is great, right? So 10%, 13 before, that was averaged out because of this unit. And then there is growth coming over it because Newman, obviously, there's longer contracts in the mining stuff in here. So 7,000 population. We can go through and look at all these stuff if we really wanted to, but I don't think it's super important for this video and what we're trying to get across. And then we can see, obviously, occupation, others will be minors. So that is the rent return. Now, fastest growing suburbs obviously are development suburbs. We're sitting at about 30%. These are people requiring houses, just new developments. People are just trying to get in. There is land offices in WA as well, specifically, that I see that people are waiting in line for 4 or 5 days. So these offices are opening on a Saturday, and we have people lining up on Tuesdays, and when they're getting there at about 5 o'clock after work, there's already 4 or 5 people in front of them. So there's a very very big shortage of land, and this is what the growing suburb is here as well. You also have a little mixture of properties that are very on the low end of price, we'll say. So as the average of the house prices, so everything's averaging 700s. If there's a suburb that's really cheap, maybe it's filled with Homes West, maybe it's low infrastructure, maybe there's nothing really around it, and it's valued at 300, that suburb is going to sell incredibly quick because people are going, why would I pay 700 when I can pay 300? Maybe 300 is more in my budget and that's a better investment. Maybe the rent return for 300 and the capital appreciation is going to go up. So people flood that suburb, which then increases the price. So you're seeing a lot of one of those two situations here. And they're all sitting around the 20 to 30% mark. So ACT obviously always falls behind a lot of things, which will change this year, I believe. Western Australia, all about the same. So everyone's around the 25% mark. What's interesting in WA is it's a mining town in here, so there's obviously new developments going up for the new operation that's launching this year, I think it is, or next year. And then obviously the highest performing is Queensland, I believe, 29%. Nope, New South Wales. So Burke at 29.41%. Now, highest growth suburbs, these will be, these will be, as I said, the long-term plays that you want to look into. Sometimes it lags a little bit, so we just got to click a few times. Now, these ones are sitting at about the 48% mark as well. So these will be sort of the blue chip ones that are in demand across all states, and we're sitting about the 40% for the higher ones. South Australia, 48. I believe I saw a 50 here somewhere, right? Nope, I need glasses. 48. So New South Wales, 48. Everywhere there's a top performing suburb by about 40%, and it's always clearing the second one by 10-ish%, unless it's Queensland, which you can see in terms of long-term growth. Queensland is dominating the market, and the same as New South Wales as well. And here with everything in the 40s, and then Victoria, we have a few in the 40s, ACT's one, which is all good. I'm not just looking for something out of the ordinary. They all look pretty much what the market says. The only one would be Thornley is a good example of one of those suburbs that were very, very cheap and that everyone's just flooded it. Thornley a few years ago was about the 300,000 mark, and now everyone buying houses. Then they moved to Thornley, Armidale, and this price has increased because they were the cheap suburbs because of the demographic that was there, and now they are 500,000-600,000 just because people they don't want to pay that amount for 700-800 for a normal house when they can go to 300. On top of that, rents are so high that if they just buy a $300 house, the same thing happens in the mining town. It's the same stats, but it's for a city home, right? So it'll be I'll pay $300 a week for mortgage and rent maybe $600-700. Not the other way around. So $400 a week for mortgage, rent $700. So that's a good example of those. All of these are some of these are long-term mining towns and some growth. And I think that is all that's in there for the great best suburbs. So if you, this is not a plug for this website, let me be clear. This is just one of the very few, not one of the very few, this is one of many tools that we use to analyze properties. We have a whole bunch of these, but this is a very great platform that's public, it's free, and it doesn't take a lot to get signed up. And you also have a lot of stuff such as investor strategy, the finance. We have hotspots, we have news articles, so you can keep an eye, and they're very, very relevant, and they spit them out very often as well. So hopefully that helps everyone in there, and you can jump on that site, look at the websites, but we can see 40-ish% returns on growing suburbs, fast return suburbs, and also the rental returns. Obviously looking at WA would be the best for rental returns. So if you like the video, like and subscribe. If you want me to do a dive into a specific house or specific property, please put it in the comments. I'm looking to actually do more dives into the analysis dives into actual properties that maybe you're looking at. So if you have any, put them down. I'll put them in a video for next, and we'll actually analyze a property in real time. Other than that, have a great day.